what has kept you following the Indian politics in such a way that a lot of you consider one of the experts in the domain?
I'm a real expert on the politics, but in India, I think everyone is expert on politics.
For the people who have been quite seriously following the student protests,
This is more than a movement, this is an organized toolkit. One or couple of years back as to where the genesis of this particular toolkit starts. It starts with what happened with our neighbors. And what we call as Gen Z, which is generation next. And they thought that it is their voice, and through their voice they can actually dictate what that particular country is. My question to this particular person is that obviously he reached Boston University from the same system that he is actually that he was part of it. The system allowed him to go and probably reach the universities such as Boston in America, have an education there, study there. And in this technological era, if you can't find a solution for a paper leak, sit at Jantar Mantar and say, I want that person to be sacked, I want this to be person sacked, and create an anarchy, then this is not the way to go ahead. This is not a student protest at all.
of course, we have your critique that made a lot of sense, but is asking for accountability such a bad thing? And so what if the liberal forces are supporting the cause? At the end, it is a good cause, isn't it?
Tell me, didn't this government take accountability at all?
Hello everyone, I'm Vinayak Mishra and welcome to another podcast by the Indic Thought Forum. Today we are going to be talking about the CJP, the Cockroach Janata Party, the NEET protests and decoding the chaos around it. Among with us we have Mr. Abhishek S Iyengaar sir, who is an expert in the domain. But before we get to the CJP, and the whole NEET storm, for the viewers, sir, this is who are viewing you for the first time, please tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what has kept you following the Indian politics in such a way that a lot of you consider one of the experts in the domain?
I don't know if I'm a real expert on the politics, but in India, I think everyone is expert on politics. So if four people, if they accumulate together, then they are expert on politics. So that's how we perceive them as. But I think, I come from a very traditional, engineering family. So I did my engineering and then did my master's in BITS Pilani. Very contrary to a lot of content that I post online where people comment that have you studied, have you cleared a competitive exam? Yes, I have done GATE, I have cleared it. I have studied in BITS Pilani. So this is for all of them. Okay, just a small response to them. And of course, I worked in IT sector for about 11 years. It is as typical as a Bangalorean can get. But the only change or the diversion here is that I was indulged in theatre, which is the performing live arts, from my school ages. So I run a theatre company called as VMU Theatre. And we used to do a lot of theatre along with our IT careers when we started. And somewhere down the line, when we actually, when we thought that there was no point in pursuing this IT career further. In 2017, me and my partner quit our IT careers to concentrate on theatre full time. Which is creating stage performances, curating stage performances, and creating a ecosystem where people can actually, people with no experience can actually come explore and do theatre. Okay, so that is what we kind of wanted to create a platform. We started, VMO was already there. We started it as a full-time company. And then we, of course, moved on to work in corporates using theatre as a medium. So, my interest in this particular domain comes from theatre. Right, and because and we specifically do contemporary theatre, which actually deals about issues that is happening around us. We are not into folk theatre too much. So every time when we actually create a play, create some content on stage, anything that we try to do, it's about the story of common man. And in India, the story of common man revolves around cricket, music, or politics. Okay, so and the other two are okay, but I think somewhere down the line we got interested in this third topic, which is politics, and that's how I started voicing my entire thing out. So it's not about being expert in that field, it's about what you feel in that particular field. That's the only thing.
Right. So you're an ex-student and you are in the theatrical domain.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's wrong to say that what's happening in Delhi right now is less than a theatrical drama. So of course, an experienced guy is going to help with the same.
Right.
But for the viewers and you, sir, there'll be a ground rule. We are not here to defend or bury anyone.
Right.
We want the students watching to actually understand that.
Right.
We are going to be critical towards the government
Right.
as well as the students
Right.
and the whole system that has resulted in this whole fiasco.
Correct.
So, keeping that in mind, let's move forward.
Yeah.
What is the CJP? And I want you to answer it in two ways. One, for the people who have been seeing memes about it on their social media page, and one for the people who have been quite seriously following the student protests.
Right. There is no one word to define a particular movement. I mean, a movement rises from a word called as necessity, right? Whenever there is a necessity in this particular world, a movement rises and a sustained movement actually takes place, and the movement will result into something else. Now, this I wouldn't actually call it as a movement at all. And I wouldn't call CJP as a credible source which can actually steerhead this particular movement or so-called movement. Anything that was actually created out of a meme or a claim telling that when the Chief Justice of India told that the bunch of cockroaches, what are you doing? And then suddenly, a Cockroach Janata Party is actually created, and then suddenly overnight people actually flush that particular Instagram page like hell. You can actually get followers. This is more than a movement. This is an organized toolkit, right? And this is not something new that we have seen. I mean, this is what we have always actually seen from past 12 years. I think what I will probably this is my personal view. I'll probably go one or couple of years back as to where the genesis of this particular toolkit starts. It starts with what happened with our neighbors, right? Both with Bangladesh, Nepal, and also sometime back in Sri Lanka, where our organized toolkit, which actually resulted in some kind of student or Gen Z protest, started, which actually resulted in regime change. And when we actually dig into the files of any of this regime change, we see that there is enough amount of contribution from the foreign sources, unseen forces, which actually really want a regime change, right? Every decade has some kind of a tactics to do regime change, right? Every second generation country, which is developing country, will actually have this pressure of undergoing this regime change by a country or by a power which is actually superior to it. Now, 70s it was a regime change with respect to farmers. Then 80s it was something else. 90s it was with respect to the booming economy, business, opening up of globalization, etc. 2000 it was the IT boom, etc. So as we actually moved on to different eras, this era somehow it was perceived first by our neighboring countries telling that it actually belonged to students, which obviously is, and what we call as Gen Z, which is generation next, and they thought that it is their voice, and through their voice they can actually dictate what that particular country was. Okay, so this was an organized setup in order to make sure that some amount of propaganda is actually pushed into the Indian ecosystem, so that people, especially people who actually are on the social media, especially Instagram or any other meta platforms, can actually consume the data that they want to see, right? And through that particular data, they want to set a political score, right? And this is where this entire concept of CJP started, is what I believe in. There was no root to this particular movement. there was no immediate necessity of this particular movement, and obviously there is no if you can say direction to this particular movement. Every day the direction changes. Every day the route changes. The necessity changes. It is growing. It's developing. And then it just gets added on as and when people join. So I would, as I told you, more than the movement, I would say it is an organized toolkit, and it is tried and tested. It's not new. So, and it's here too.
Right. So, but I have a few questions. Yeah. For the naive eye, we have seen that there was a person who was worried about the system. He was living in the US, and he wrote a Twitter or a tweet about the topic, and telling, hey, we are, as youngsters, are being criticized or being labeled as so and so by the officials who are supposed to protect us, who are supposed to look after our well-being. And then something which appears to be organic has started. We have seen, as you mentioned, that their direction has been changing over the time. But only if it was truly a well-established framework, would the direction not change, right? Would it be spearheaded with a proper plan? So can we not say that perhaps this was the time where the tipping point was reached and a revolution was on the go, coinciding with the fact that in the neighboring countries also a similar revolution was happening?
Let us dwell upon this fact of this person, the founder of CJP, who actually wrote on Twitter telling that he has some issue with that particular system. He's in Boston, of course, studying in Boston University. He tweets, and then a lot of students react to it, etc., etc. My question to this particular person is that obviously he reached Boston University from the same system that he is actually that he was part of it. The system allowed him to go and probably reach the universities such as Boston in America, have an education there, study there. For roughly about 70 years, the education system in India is enabling people to obviously to study, pursue education, and then of course go to other countries and do there. Let me tell you that the education system in India is not of India's at all. It is the old Macaulay education system that we are actually having.
Right.
It is a British imposed education system on India, which has been continued till now, including the biggest critics of the government and the supporters of the government acknowledge the fact telling that the education system should have a total reform in India. The ancient India had the Gurukul system, which is the more practical based, skill based, which we today call it as NEP. Right? We lost, we were imposed with the Macaulay way of education system, and then we are actually continuing with that for Macaulay is like you have 10 plus the 10th as this one, then 9 plus 1 plus another 2 years 2, and then graduation, which is a standard set. Now I think we should probably stop a moment, ask telling that should we actually need a reform in our education system, or should we go back what we had? Should we go back to what we had,
right,
which is the Gurukula system? There are many Gurukula schools that are actually emerging today, in fact, at different corners of this particular country. And are we spending enough amount of time or dwelling in us to actually put our efforts in making this education system come to the foremost so that we can actually avoid such kind of the protest or such kind of whatever that is happening in this country? So that brings back to my thoughts into two things, telling that this person who tweets, got a number of followers, thought that the followers on social media will actually result into obviously some kind of a mass movement, came here and started a mass movement, which is obviously growing. Apart from that particular system, let me ask this person telling that, or who are protesting, have they even presented a solution till date? Okay, I'll agree telling that NEET paper leak has happened. UPSC paper leak might happen. GATE paper leak might happen. Okay. What are they offering a solution? Right? Mr. The so-called initiator of this hunger strike, who is a scientist himself, who has access to the education minister of this country, who himself tweeted telling that NEP is the best thing to happen to this country, and who has a photo with the education minister himself on Twitter. When this particular thing happened, couldn't some of these protesters, instead of sitting at Jantar Mantar, go to that particular Ministry of Education and say that, look, I have this AI tool here which actually prevents the paper leak, or I have this technology which actually prevents this paper leak, or I have this thing that will actually make sure that these children will not have to go under this particular paper leak. Yes, you are asking for accountability. Yes, accountability is there, but with accountability comes solution. Now, I would have been most appreciative of this particular Janata Party, Cockroach Janata Party, to have started the protest if the government had rejected their solution, if they had not looked at their solution. Right? No one is presenting a solution today. Resignation of the minister, that entire issue is solved. Where is the solution for it?
Yeah, that is a very well pointed out critique. And yeah, I mean, I agree. But what if, let's give them the benefit of doubt. Maybe it wasn't a well-oiled structure, maybe it wasn't backed by, a specific framework that was telling them, ki, hey, these are the steps to go. What if it was genuinely led by students who didn't know what is the right way to go about it? And, they thought perhaps demanding accountability is the best way to go forward.
I'll tell you what. Like, let us take a step back and then go to some primary education of our country. We all went to schools, right? In the history of our school education, there are instances where our class exams, class revision classes, etc., they all get cancelled, postponed, something for some reason, right? No, obviously not for paper leak. For some reason, some delegate is coming or some teacher is not well today, something. Did you go to the principal and said that you resigned from school today? Obviously, you might ask saying that do they have that maturity or intact or the thought process of this one? The thing is that, paper leak happened. Paper leak happened not for the first time. Paper leak has been happening for ages in this particular country.
Right.
Pre-2014 also happened. Post-2014 also it is happening. It is an issue that needs to be solved. No one denies that particular fact. Accountability is in fixing the issue and not asking a resignation of a minister. If that minister resigns, another minister from some other party will come and sit there.
Fair, yeah.
Right? Now, what is the assurance that you have telling that the another minister will come and fix this particular issue? Right? None of them are looking into how this particular solution can be actually fixed.
Right.
And none of them are even actually looking into as to why this particular paper leak is happening. Is it the tuition mafia that is there? Is it something else? Is it the bureaucracy? NTA, which is a national testing agency, is an autonomous body under the government of India in Ministry of Education. They conduct this particular exam. The purpose of NEET was to have merit-based admission into medical colleges. So, because merit-based admission into medical colleges came into existence, do you think that politicians who run medical colleges are losing out on the management money or the seat that they are selling? So, are they opposing for that? There might be different angles if you actually see.
True.
But I'll tell you that accountability is in finding the solution. And in this technological era, if you can't find a solution for a paper leak, sit at Jantar Mantar and say, I want that person to be sacked, I want this to be person sacked, and create an anarchy, then this is not the way to go ahead. This is not the student protest at all, according to me. Students are the ones who find solution.
Fair.
Right? Why do you support a student protest? You say that they are the next generation. Right? I'll tell you one thing, very simple thing. And I'll end this by telling this, right? When the first attempt of Chandrayaan happened, it failed. Right? Obviously, it had some issue. It did not land in this one. So, as citizens, did we all go and sit in Jantar Mantar and ask the ISRO chairman to resign? You may ask, how is it connected to me? Because student protest is something my son, my daughter is going through. In Chandrayaan, it is my taxpayers' money also, no?
Right.
3,000 crores they would spend, right? In the first this one. So 3,000 crores got wasted, no?
So, but if I bring a small analogy,
Yeah.
ISRO has always kept us proud. So we can give it the benefit of doubt, ki perhaps, it was a genuine failure and so we support.
Yeah, correct, right? ISRO has it some kind of legacy to it, some kind of, it is always proved over the time. Why? Because people like Abdul Kalam or Vikram Sarabhai or the people who actually held that initial helm of ISRO, they did not sit at Jantar Mantar. They came up with solutions, right? when they thought that PSLV 1, which is the first PSLV that they launched, when they found out that launching PSLV 1 from India is very costly, they figured out the Desi method to reduce the cost.
Right.
They carried out on cycle carriers and then launched it. If they would have sat on Jantar Mantar, then where you would have got the credibility of ISRO today?
Fair point, sir.
Yeah. So
That's
every time, like any government institution, if it fails, if you start telling that, okay, you resign, where is the solution? And then in that case, I'll tell you, I will not take a very like for example, some of the big IT companies which has number of employees. Every time the software fails, the manager should resign, the project manager should resign, the team lead should resign, the CTO should resign.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Isn't it right? That is what I see that time.
Fair critique, sir. I think all of us had a good share of giggle on that. You're right. But sir, looking at it from a higher perspective, can you take us through the timeline of this whole NEET protest? And I think a lot of it took gravity when Sonam Wangchuk
Yeah.
decided to fast on the subject.
Yeah.
So if you could take us through the timeline and also tell ki why a climate activist chose to become the face of a medical exam protest.
Correct. Of course, when you say the timeline, I don't have the exact date of everything
Right.
that happened in mind, but obviously that everyone knows by this time. I don't have to repeat it again. But why now is a question. It's a very interesting question that I also spoke about recently. 20 days into the parliament, this protest is started. See the number of bills that are being introduced in the monsoon session of this particular parliament. The most important bill that is there is FCRA,
Right.
which is the the Foreign Contribution Regulatory Act. If FCRA 2.0, if it is implemented, will regulate the way foreign funds can be introduced into India. Ironically, I am not actually doing any link. It's for the viewers to probably Google and see how the link can happen. Every person who has been involved in this protest has a NGO which actually gets a foreign fund from either Ford Foundation, Open Source Foundation, or anyone else that we think that are probably there to create a particular kind of ecosystem in this particular country. In fact, the chief spokesperson of that particular party himself got about 5 lakhs from Thakur Family Foundation from US. And he used that money to write propaganda articles. Right? How many of nationalistic journalists or someone who actually writes about India, the poorest poor of India, the art form of India, have got 5 lakh or 7 lakh from Thakur Family Foundation in India? Right? I am from theatre. My art dies every day. There is no money for the artist to pay. For example, do you think that Dollu Kunita, which is a Karnataka traditional art form, that particular performer, will he get 10 lakhs from Ford Foundation from US? No, he is trying to survive on his particular art form.
Right.
Right? So, everyone who are actually part of this protest are probably linked to this particular NGO sector that is there. And everyone actually has some amount of interest in this FCRA Bill 2.0 that has been introduced. So, my take on this is why now? Is, of course, divert the monsoon session, not allow the bill to be passed, have a total ruckus in both the houses of parliament. The government has majority this time, right? They would have gone probably, they also wanted to move the delimitation bill, which was not passed in the previous session. So I think probably they really wanted to probably look or relook this particular bill. But how will you say to the government telling that don't pass a bill because it doesn't suit my needs? Right? Even Sonam Wangchuk's school Semkol, that is there in Ladakh, receives good amount of funding from foreign contributors. And he is one of the biggest beneficiary of this particular FCRA funds that are there. Now, none of these particular people on Instagram who are saying that I felt so bad for the students, I couldn't sleep yesterday, who are putting posts in solidarity, who will explain them this entire nexus network of when they are actually guilt tripping on that images that has been shared, right? It is very difficult to explain. So I think timeline was matched to this particular monsoon session of parliament. And if I think, or if I guess, if it is to be right, then after this particular session, this will vanish like it never existed.
We'll try to follow up on the prophecy, sir.
Yeah.
But for the viewers, because we perhaps want to keep this as accessible. What is the FCRA and what is its significance, and why would so many interest of so many groups be focused towards delaying the bill discussion in the monsoon session?
FCRA is a foreign contribution act which is there, which actually regulates how Indian NGOs can actually get foreign funds. Right. This was discussed during the state of Kerala assembly elections also, but it did not go through because of the assembly elections.
Okay.
Right. There is definitely certain amount of politics that is played both by the opposition, of course, by some amount of the government, to make sure that this particular bill has to be passed. Now, 2.0 has some regulatory measures on how this particular NGOs can actually get money.
Okay.
Suddenly, they'll be accountable. Again, the fact that all that they are protesting for accountability under this bill, the funds, the NGOs that actually receive foreign money are accountable.
Okay.
They need to report as to why they are receiving the fund, and there is a way that they can actually be also tracked and other things. Right. Now, this is something that probably they don't want. There are many other regulatory changes also. Right? So I would definitely tell your viewers to actually go, the draft bill is already published there. Go back, just Google it and see what is it and compare it with, now you can just give to the ChatGPT, it will compare and say what is the difference between FCRA O and 2.0. You will be surprised by the number of features that this government wants to introduce in this particular bill. And all these features that they are introducing will have a binding effect on all these people who are directly associated or indirectly associated with this particular protest. I think that is the timeline that they are even targeting.
Right. Fair point, sir. Now, my other question is, a lot of the people on social media have been telling ki, so what? The NEET leak did happen. You can tell ki, oh, perhaps, so many forces are behind it. But is asking for resignation, is asking for accountability, of course, we have your critique that made a lot of sense, but is asking for accountability such a bad thing? And so what if the liberal forces are supporting the cause? At the end, it is a good cause, isn't it?
Correct. I did not have, or at least personally, according to me, I do not have any issue with any liberal or non-liberal supporting this particular cause. We all have children. At some point of time, they all go through this, and we all have to be sensitive towards this particular thing. Paper leak is a genuine issue. And asking accountability is definitely a right thing. But at what rate you are asking accountability, right? What is at stake for you when you are asking accountability? That is what it matters. Tell me, didn't this government take accountability at all? The farmers' protest happened, right? 3 farm laws were introduced. The farm laws were introduced to actually benefit the farmers. In fact, many of them, after it was repealed, thought that if the farm laws were there today, it would have helped the farmers during this no monsoon, because it had that minimum buying rate, selling rate, etc., and other things, right? The government listened to them, right? And they were repealed. So, do you think that there was no accountability in that? Obviously, there was no accountability in that particular aspect also. So, according to me, asking accountability is not an issue. According to me, how are you asking for accountability is the issue.
Fair.
Yeah. Now, see, I'll tell you what. Fasting or sitting at a protest at a particular place is not a 21st generation technique or tool to ask for accountability, right? In this 21st generation, you ask accountability by doing things, by creating your own things. And do you think it is not a blackmail for any administration, right? To sit on a fast and say that if you don't do it, I'll die. I'll tell you tomorrow, I will sit on a hunger strike. Okay? Maybe not in Jantar Mantar, there is no space, but wherever there is space, even in Bangalore Freedom Park, and say that I will fast until reservation system in this education system in India is removed. Will government listen to me? Will they engage with me? Let me ask you, or let me tell you, the reservation in education has claimed more children life than the NEET paper issue at all.
Right.
Right? From ages. Right? It is the biggest setback in education system that reservation is there. You will actually show to a doctor who has scored 35% in his admission entrance, become a surgeon, and you're giving his life tomorrow. The same future of this country will be showing to a doctor who has scored only 35, and he is there because of reservation. The general merit students will never fight for it. They are still struggling, toiling. They are taking that whatever marks that they need, going there, sitting for exams year after year, and get out of 10 2 seats. There are similar so many issues, right? If you sit for hunger strike for any of these issues, will government engage? Any government? No. So hunger strike, be it with liberal or without liberal, is a thing of past. Today's strike or protest is with solution. Right. Come to me on board, talk to me on solution. And then we'll talk about accountability.
That is a very fair point, and I absolutely agree with it. Rather than trying to hold the government accountable, if one who is doing the protest is accountable themselves, proposes a solution, that is a much better way to go forward in this era where education is given so much importance. Another question for the viewers is, we had the 2013 Vyapam fraud, we had the UP TET cancelled, we had the REIT cancelled, we had the NEET UG and UGC NEET of 2024 cancelled. But the food for thought is, why weren't the protests during those times? And why now? And another question is, how would the FCRA be linked to this? Is it just a coincidence? Or is there some planning behind it, as Sir mentioned? So, another question to you is, I have seen 3 Idiots, and I love the character of Wangchuk Wangdu. But now a lot of questions and concerns out of the blue are being raised on Sonam Wangchuk, who has been claimed as Wangchuk Wangdu, or the inspiration behind him. So what do we know about him, and how does him being on a fast, help the CJP or the whole revolution?
For roughly about a decade or so, more than a decade, the makers of the film have clarified multiple times, be it the director and of course very recently the actor and the producer too, that this character is based on someone else and not with this particular person. Now, Mr. Wangchuk, with all due respect to whatever his inventions or whatever that he's actually doing great in Ladakh, is not the real character on which this film was actually based. The film itself, the screenplay is based on Chetan Bhagat's 3 Idiots, 5 Mistakes of My Life, 5 Point Someone, which is a very acclaimed bestseller of our times. And then a little bit of the director's, his own, colleague from the Film Institute. That's all been clarified by themselves. But what I like is about for over a decade, a narrative was actually built telling that this character is built on this person, this character is built on this person, etc. And I've told in my own Instagram post telling that there is no similarity between that person and this person at all, except that both of them come from Ladakh and the climax happened in Ladakh. Apart from that thing, there is another narrative which is also being busted, is that the climax of the film, they sold that it was shot in Mr. Wangchuk's school. That was not even Wangchuk's school. They couldn't actually shoot there because of the cold conditions. They actually shot at a government school which is near to that particular school, near to the center of that particular dish, which was again confirmed by the director of the film. So I think a systematic development, and Mr. Wangchuk comes from a political family. His father was a Congress MLA. He was a minister in J&K, right? With all due respect to Mr. Wangchuk, I would also want him to ask very directly, telling that all the reforms that you are asking today, why couldn't you tell your own father to do when he was part of Congress? I'm not being biased of Congress or BJP, right? The time when he was minister in J&K had a separate constitution. It was not even part of India, right? They had their own constitution. 1975, I think his father was minister there. He could have brought in the reforms that he wanted because he didn't even need an Indian constitution not to do that there. Right? And that model could have proposed here. Today, we talk about Singapore model, we talk about Gujarat model, we talk about some other model, we talk about China model. We don't talk about China protest, Gujarat protest, Singapore protest. Models work. That model needs to be implemented here. So the scientist has to bring a model. Right? And this careful narrative building is something that will actually make people a lot fuller than they seem to be. And the left liberals are expert in this. They know how to do this. Unfortunately, the nationalist leaders don't know how to build their narratives. Though they do good work, they don't know how to build their own narratives. The left know how to build a narrative. I'll tell you a very simple example. I mean, it might be as controversial as it can get, but I'll try to be as less controversial as it can get. But like, for example, if you find a slipper on road, a nationalist leader will actually say that, oh, there is a slipper, it belongs to someone. Right? The same left liberal will paint the slipper with first caste color. Then he will actually paint as to in which road it was there. For that, he will actually paint the social injustice color. Then if it is left slipper or light slipper, depending on that, he will say that how inequality is there in this particular society. Right? And then if it is based on the condition of that particular slipper, he will say that economic inequality that is there in this particular country. Right? Not only you, anyone will believe. But it's just a random slipper that has been fallen there. Right? That's an art. That's why they are in art. So, I mean, I think this is the art of narrative building. Right. And this is what they also followed. Of course, without discounting Mr. Wangchuk's contribution as a scientist, and also claiming that he had 400 patents, which obviously he doesn't have. None of the patents are in his name. But the thing is that this narrative building can actually go to any extent, and this is what it will actually result into, which is anarchy.
Right. So to decode these, is that why you went into the theoretical domain?
I'm an outlaw in my domain. So.
But say you mentioned that I think a decade has gone behind Sonam Wangchuk's personality development of creating that propaganda. I personally find it hard to believe that so much effort would be put behind the scenes to create a narrative. And are those all created just to ensure that in such scenarios or in such situations, can the genuine outrage be fueled towards a specific direction?
The genuine outrage will be lost in that direction more than fueled. The real people, the real parents of those 20 students who committed suicide, the real ones who actually got hurt in that particular cancellation of their rights, this one entirely is lost in this entire thing. What has happened to yesterday? It has become Congress versus BJP. Right. Samajwadi Party versus BJP. AAP versus Congress versus BJP. Right? Where are those students? Remember that when this NEET exam happened, when the NEET cancelled and the NEET happened, 4 students were not allowed to write in Bangalore only because they were late, because on that day there was a political function in the state of Karnataka, and Bangalore there was a huge traffic, they couldn't write. Right? Their interest is also needs to be protected, right? Their rights is also protected. Yeah. What happened? Who is speaking about them? So no one is asking accountability for that particular incident at all. Right? 4 students, they couldn't write. Might be one of them could have been topper. Who knows? That we can't say. So whoever did that political function on that day, who is asking accountability for that? So the genuine interest, the genuine cause is completely lost. Today we see it as Congress versus BJP. Right? SP versus this one. Your media also, when big people are involved, they will cover big people, and they will actually obviously leave out the smaller ones. Yeah. And to answer the another question of, do you think that someone will invest so much in this kind of narrative building? See, the way left ecosystem works is a very organized ecosystem. If a PhD student writes does a thesis of some subject matter in 2009, that will become a matter of protest in 2022. Right? 2009 he would have done a PhD thesis. The thesis will get published. Then it will actually get a certificate of authority from a great professor from JNU. And then after JNU's professor will actually accept it, then it will actually go to the foreign university as articles. Then in foreign universities, these people will study. Then like Washington Post or something, they will actually pick up and write an article about it. Then an editorial will come. Then they will actually start speaking about it. Then there will be talks arranged on that. And then there will be a protest for that.
Oh, wow. So do you have some examples that can help us?
Many.
Okay, can you share some of them?
Much before the whole concept of CAA was brought into effect, there was a thesis on how CAA is bad to India.
Wow.
Yeah. So talk about UCC. There are so many theses on UCC telling that how UCC will actually become a Hindu majority country. But none of it, as per the UCC, speaks about language at all there. Right? So it's a systematic churn.
So another question I have is, we have seen a lot of interesting people come to the student protest. We have had the same stage share with Sonam Wangchuk, who is on a hunger strike. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of guilt trip around it, and there's a lot of emotional angle being projected to that. And on the same stage, there are, I wouldn't say comedians because I don't consider him as one, but people like Kunal Kamra who are standing there and telling jokes about Lord Ram towards a specific community. And there are also songs that are being chanted which support a specific community, which is an absolutely different thing. How is this going unnoticed, or what does that hint towards?
No, so the thing is that it's not unnoticed. It's the sarcastic laugh that they are having at this particular Hindu society. Like anyone can come, do anything or talk anything about the Hindu society, walk free and have the last laugh. That is how we are actually reduced to. We are jokers. In fact, we actually treat them as jokers. They are not jokers. We are jokers. Right? I'll dare any one of these to speak on any other religion the way that they speak about Hinduism. The entire world, India has seen the result of it also. It's not that there is no result of it at all. Right? So, I mean, these people who are actually coming and talking a lot about this Hinduism and all those things, what are they gaining out of it? It's not even related to NEET issue. So that NEET, the student after he passes the NEET, will he actually go and check whether my patient is Muslim or Hindu before treating? No. Then there is no point of saying Sita ka pati, Neeta ka pati kaam kar raha hai. Doesn't make any sense.
Do we classify Sonam Wangchuk as a foreign agent, or do we consider whatever is being talked about him right now as a character assassination of something that was built as a part of propaganda since the past decade?
Neither of them, in fact. I think a narrative was built around him. So, of course, he might have equal amount of credentials to actually have that narrative built around him. And then he's just being used as a tool. I think he is probably not even realizing that he is a tool in this entire game of chess. And I don't think so that, of course, there are TV interviews of him saying that if Chinese army does some aggression, we will actually show them the way or route. I don't know what does he mean by that. But I'm pretty sure that the only time the Chinese showed the aggression, the Indian army was not given the full, independence to go and attack them. So, and the entire world knows that situation is not there now.
Yeah.
Right? The army is more powerful. So I don't think so that is happening for sure. But I think, considering him as a liberal or many other liberals who are there, their concept of this free form of, oh, you should have the world without borders, you should have everything free, there should not be gender discrimination, there should not be gender identification, there should not be any family system. This, this bullcrap ideas that they come up with, which is not, which probably doesn't have any logical definition in a practical society. This entire ecosystem's thought process is an issue, and that is what it leads them to very difficult places and difficult positions to justify. Like he going to Pakistan for an environment summit found it very difficult for him to justify as to why he was there when that particular country was in a war with us. Right? But his idea in his mind, idea is that, oh, this is a world without borders. Himalaya is for me also, Himalaya is for you also. But that doesn't work practically, no.
Yeah.
You go and say to Mexico and America, telling that you live world without borders, will they allow? They are building 10 feet walls between the two countries.
Yeah.
Right? You go and tell Germany and France to live without borders. Will they live without borders? Obviously not. Why is this entire concept only for, our India, not even Asia for that matter?
Yeah.
Why is it that we should actually live in this la-la land, telling that, oh, this is the liberal world, etc., and all those things? Obviously not. So this liberal thought is there, no? That there is an issue with that. There is a practicality issue with that, and that will actually land them into difficult places. And I feel that the same thought has also landed him into some strange places and unjustifiable situations, is what I think.
Right.
But neither of the thing that probably you would ask me that he will be or he's there. But I think he's just a probably a tool and a liberal thought, I think.
Right. So another question I have is, we as students, I was one until 1 year, and you're also an ex-student now. A lot of these people do not want to involve themselves in politics, involve themselves in, if it comes from the West, progressive culture.
Yeah.
They do want to involve in that. But if it comes from our own civilization, radical culture, if we as students do not want to involve in any of these, if we don't care about the religious aspect of it, if we do not care about the political aspect of it, if we do not care about the ideological aspect of it, but you have brought in these points and you have shown how important these are, and you also brought in the analogy of it being a chess game where a lot of people use pawns. Can you lay emphasis as to why the viewers, most of whom I presume are going to be students, should take this out of their mind that such angles are not relevant to something that is claimed as a student cause or claimed as a revolution for the students?
To put it in a very simple term, we all need to stand by the student cause, right? And that's the prima facie that this particular country can do for the future. Now, I feel that there shouldn't be a word called a student cause at all. I feel that should be a fundamental right.
Right.
That's my difference, right? I don't see that the word student cause should exist in a country at all, which the liberal world is actually talking.
Is that equivalent to the chappal being given?
Yeah. So I am telling that we shouldn't call it as a cause, but we should say that we should, like, we have like fundamental, like 10 fundamental rights or some 8 fundamental duties or etc. So we should actually say that whatever article, so I'm just giving an example. As per the Indian Constitution, article so number should ensecure the future of the student of this particular country. Right? And then it will cease to be a cause.
Right.
Because it is a fundamental right. That me as a citizen of this particular country, I am entitled to this. So the students are entitled. They need not fight for it.
But can we not say ki, just like one of the CGIs had told ki footpaths are a basic fundamental right, that the air is a fundamental right. When these are not provided is when the revolution happens. So as a result of that, predominantly students have come out as a student protest. So would your solution be changing the name from a student protest to a fundamental right protest?
Yeah, absolutely. So demand, do a protest demanding the fundamental rights of the students.
Right.
right? Seeking a resignation of a minister who anyway is in term for another 2 years will not fetch you anything.
Right. Fair. Yeah.
If you guys are fighting for the future of this particular country, then it should be constitutionally. Invoking the highest court of this country to include the student right as a fundamental right and define it so that tomorrow, 50 years from now, that right is actually protected. And then you can actually go to a particular Supreme Court or High Court, file a writ petition and say that my student fundamental right is violated, give me justice.
Right.
If that was there, then those 20 students who actually committed suicide, their parents would have filed a case against the government in the court. They can't today. So we need to demand that rather than this. So there need to, causes are temporary. Causes rise for political purposes. A larger vision is how you can secure this entire particular this one. And then you have a world's largest written constitution. So if everything is written in the constitution, why not about students?
That is a very important distinction made, and it is an important point for the viewers too. Sir, another question I have is, we talked about the left propaganda that has shaped different personalities to be seen in a specific way. But there were also a lot of on-ground reports about how the students were slowly divided, not allowed to move forward, allowed to move forward in specific direction that the police wanted. The police not wearing any name tags. The police, of course, using tear gas and other means, and also pointing the guns. It sent a very strong message that perhaps the government was playing its own kind of a propaganda. There were also accounts about the government breaking a few windshields, a few videos of which have surfaced out, and then telling, they started the violence. So what would be your take on that? Would you say both of them are spreading their own propaganda to brainwash their own sides of people?
Yeah, I think, see, any government, I'm not defending government or not defending the student protest, but any government who wants system in place, governments are like house of cards, like irrespective of any party. They don't want their cards to be tumbled. And they know that if one card falls, the entire series of cards will fall. Right? And this is with respect to any countries, any government. Protests are not new to this country. This world. Like 2 weeks back, protest happened in France. Right? Very violent protest happened in France. Happened in Germany. Happened in China some time back. So any government's first reaction to any protest or any mass mobilized movement towards a particular place is to contain them. Right? When you contain a mass mobilization of people, there will be sparks. And then that will actually give rise to whatever that you actually said. Now, how can you avoid this? Like, for example, I'll not say how can you avoid this, but what happened here also was that let me ask you this. That founder of Cockroach Janata Party, he wasn't leading the protest. The other two spokespersons, probably they were waiting for the health minister's appointment. They were doing their own separate cabinet meeting kind of sorts. The other guy was not even there. He was stuffing burger somewhere in the mall. Right? And then the so-called actors who always ask, they were on a truck. I don't know where they were going. Who was leading the protest? Right?
Can we not say it was self-sustained or something?
Yeah. So, this country's going by the, going by the feature of civic sense that this country has, which cannot wait in a metro line to put a token and exit in a line. Do you think a mob mobilized of such quantity can actually move in a systematic manner towards parliament?
Fair point.
Yeah, they can't get out of the Rajanagar metro in a single line. They'll say that I'll jump the queue, etc. They will not stand in a line to pay electricity bill properly. Right? During COVID times, they were falling on each other, forget on a normal time. And do you think such mass mobilized crowd will actually go systematically towards that particular this one. Someone needs to stand in the front and lead it. If you are actually doing this particular protest, you take the first beating, no? You have to be seen in the front, right? And if those two spokespersons claim that, okay, government diverted my attention, they called me here, wasted 4 hours, one of them could have come back, no?
I think they mentioned that they were under house arrest or something.
They had their phones.
That apparently was taken away from them.
The photos have that they have their phones right in their hands.
Oh, wow.
Both of them are clinching on their phones like it was always like there. Maybe it was switched off or nothing secondary. But the thing is that is exactly what I say, that if there are 4 people who want to do this protest, and if they want to do a protest of such kind, they have to plan properly. Instead of giving bites the entire night and hitting Duffley the whole night, singing, dancing, etc. That guy, instead of dancing for 20 days, he should have planned this protest as to how it has to happen.
Fair.
Right? Now, you don't follow it. First of all, for the march, there was no permission taken. Right? Now, when you don't have a permission, obviously, taking that into account, any system will attack you.
Right.
Yeah. So you should have approached the court for the peaceful protest. I'll tell you, I quote you an example. People will, tame me with, people will actually paint me with all the colors if I quote this particular example. Okay. But this is an example I want to quote for the constitutional method. The RSS wanted to do a march in Chennai. They were denied permission. They didn't gather up at a particular place and then started marching. They approached the High Court of Madras for the peaceful protest,
Right.
which was granted by the court. Under the police vigil security, they did the peaceful march. They had India's best legal advisors there. They are 1 kilometer away from the Supreme Court, the Delhi High Court. They are sitting in the country's capital. They have their constitutional methods to squash the Delhi police order of not having the protest. They could consult with their legal advisors who are there.
That is a brilliant example made. I have no questions against it. But again, giving them the benefit of doubt. Perhaps they were predominantly students, so they didn't know that if they go without a permission and they get lathi charged at, that is, and then call it a dark day for democracy and that democracy mar gayi. What if that was the case?
Now, from that time, some of your questions always say that let's give them the benefit of doubt that they are students, they don't know that. They are students, they don't know that. If being students, you don't know anything, then why do you want to be in this particular country? Seriously. I think any person at the age of 18 should develop some kind of self-awareness on the basic things of this particular country. Then how will they pass NEET if they don't even have the basic common sense of I should take permission to go protest? Right? Now you expect such kind of ignorant students to pass that competitive exam and then come and treat you?
Fair. The responsibility before taking a revolution
Absolutely.
lies in that.
And the leaders of the protest, they were not students, no. That person is 30 years old. You had Mr. Yogendra Yadav, who is a very well-known political critic of this particular country there. He is more than 60. He has seen the world both during the times that he liked and not he doesn't like. There are many experienced people. Many opposition leaders visited to the run-up of that particular protest, right?
Yeah.
Right? They were all not students. They could seek their advice on how to do this particular thing. We shouldn't. You do this such kind of mass mobilization and then see that benefit of, then give that benefit of doubt to Delhi police also. In that benefit of doubt, Delhi police also are attacked, thinking that they are gonna attack them. Because if these students, if these children attack them, what will they go and answer to the children of their own in their houses? Delhi police are also humans, no?
So, but removing the name tags, doesn't it feel like a planned strategy?
The thing is that in a chaotic situation, and in such kind of riot kind of situation, do you think that they will actually come all prepared with badges, with baton, with all the stars, etc., with everything that will actually say that this is this one? There are many police whose tags were there. I have seen from the footages that I have seen, there are many polices whose tags were there. And in RAF, which is the Rapid Action Force, the people who actually are, except the commandos at the commanding level, the commanders, I have never seen these RAF having name badges also, the blue uniformed polices, right? Because they will have that vest, the black vest that they put for to avoid themselves from stone pelting and other things. So even though they actually are wearing the badge, they are wearing the vest. One or two might have removed the badge. You should give benefit of doubt for them also. That's what I say.
Fair points. I can't argue with that now. So, I'm curious as to how do you understand, or for the viewers, how will you explain them the background of the people who are coming and sharing the stage were? One of them was Arundhati Roy, who has a very interesting background. Could you shed some light on a few people who have supported the protest, who have taken the stage and sang some songs that are of very questionable background, sir?
See, it started with we need student rights to be protected. To the last thing that they actually said on stage was, let us repeal or let us bring back Article 370. It started from there and it ended there, including in between Arundhati Roy, who actually once said that Kashmir is not the integral part of this particular country. Now, this will actually make the confidence on that particular protest loosen.
Right.
Someone like me who thought that initially this protest will actually spark many more young minds, if you actually see such people who are systematically against the sovereignty of this particular country, who actually have given statements which are there online, etc., it will create an issue for them of confidence, right? And we are calling from that time student protest, etc. Do you even have the count of how many students were there?
I think it steadily increased. Initially, it was hardly 500 or 700 folks.
Right.
Then it had slowly built up. And I think those 500, 600 folks, when Abhijit was telling ki, it's all organic cloud, they were also belonging to a specific student union too.
Correct. So, do you think it was only students yesterday?
I would like to believe so.
No, obviously not. Like you had, organized protesters from different political parties join the student protest, right? You go through the entire footage. Again, there are many footages online. I think the police are also evaluating them. If the protesters wanted to make a, some kind of a impact, why was there a simple, say, some QR code, some registration form, etc., which said that students register here for the protest, which would have given you the total number of students who actually got involved in the protest? What is anonymity? If I am a student, if you are a student, if you are fighting for your rights, what is wrong in you registering yourself for the protest with giving your phone number? Whether you will give your real number or fake number, that's secondary. Right? We float Google Forms to invite marriages, relatives for marriages. Right? Can't the coordinators could have actually not created some kind of forms which could have actually enabled them to register, telling that the students are coming? Wouldn't that have given some kind of numbers for the Delhi police to kind of, figure out how many of them are coming, so that the entire process looked seamless? Today, the same CJP could have told that these many students have registered for the protest and these are the real students that we have. Why this ambiguity of me asking you questions, how many students were there? If that report was there, you could have told me that from that registration form, 50,000 students have registered, they were students. Of course, you can say that someone can fake that also for the registration, but there is some data, no?
Right.
Instead of ambiguity telling were they students, were they not students, etc.
I was going to ask if again we can give them the benefit of doubt, telling you their personal data might be leaked and they might be attacked. But at the end of the day, as you mentioned, giving data to the administration, like how the RSS example that you gave, only helps them administer it better. And they could have taken legal help to ensure that the protests are carried out well.
See, I'll tell you what, from the word go, this protest never seemed to be of intent that it was. Right? This protest had never had that intent. If that intent was there, all these things would have been in place.
Right.
Yeah? A genuine protest will have all these things in place. A normal area society protest have all these things in place. Right? So that entire intention of this was bashing, then started with Khalistan, started with Kashmir, then UCC, then you scold the Prime Minister. Prime Minister's office is the highest executive body of this particular country. What, you can scold anything for the Prime Minister office?
Right.
I'll you know what, before you actually tell me, this is something that has already been told also. I just wanted to say that in the protest, they all asked to hold Ambedkar's constitution or Ambedkar's photo or Bhagat Singh's photo, etc. etc. And they wanted to create an anarchy by the way that they were actually doing it. You know what Ambedkar actually told about anarchy? This person whom they were actually holding in their hands. In a speech, I'm reading it because I don't want to misquote it. In 25th November 1949, Ambedkar's speech, he said that if we wish to maintain democracy, not merely in the form but also in fact, what must we do? We must hold fast to constitutional methods of achieving our social and economic objectives. Where constitutional methods are open, there can be no justification for unconstitutional methods. These methods are nothing but grammar of anarchy. This is what he said.
Brilliant. Wow.
They are holding this same thing that they are not opening that book and reading, they're just holding. That's the problem.
That is a responsibility that falls upon them, and I think everyone should be aware about that.
Yeah.
Right. So, considering whatever has happened, forget legality. A 19-year-old whose exam got cancelled, and through no fault of their own, but now because their exam got cancelled, they're protesting and getting lathi on TV. What would you say to the kid?
I mean, to be frank, I really felt bad when the NEET exam got cancelled too. That too because of a stupid issue of paper leak, right? In this century, when everything can be online, data protected, etc., and whatnot, right? If you could, as a country, if you could roll out the world's largest universal payment network, can't you actually run a proper exam, which is foolproof, fail-proof, etc.? Now, I'm not a preacher to actually preach that 19-year-old kid, but I can only say to that 19-year-old kid is that the system should actually get revamped. I am also one of them who thinks that the education system needs to revamp, right? There is a process that is actually set in order to actually do this particular revamp, right? Immediately after the NEET was actually cancelled, the re-examination was actually done. The re-examination was successful. The results were announced, and roughly about 1 lakh people or so, maybe, they actually graduated. I mean, they passed, and then probably they would actually get seats, etc., etc. So there was some measures taken immediately, right? But we will actually work in a solution, or we will work towards a solution where such kind of things don't exist or take place in future. Protest or disappointment is not a solution, but finding a solutions to such paper leak in this technology-ridden country is the biggest thing that we need to look at it. Right? And that is what we need to work. And my request to all the students is that I am pretty sure the system will be open to talk to you. I don't know the government, but the system will be open to talk to you. Right? Anyone with a small startup idea today, you can see where they are. Right? This is the land of opportunities for sure. If you have a solution on how to stop this particular paper leak, if you come up with a solution, I'm pretty sure the system will actually look into it. System is different, government is different. I'm telling you, the system will look into it. So we should work on a comprehensive solution and not a protest, is what I would say that 19-year-old kid.
Right, sir. I'm personally touched by that statement too, because true, the responsibility of proposing a solution also comes to the person who is protesting against it, and that is the only justified way forward in an era where we have information at abundance.
Correct.
Another question to the viewers is, if there was stone pelting, shouldn't the leaders who march in the crowd into the barricaded zone share the blame for what happened? If they did not have the permission, shouldn't they also share the blame for what happened? If we give the benefit of doubt to the crowd, shouldn't we give the benefit of doubt to the Delhi police too? And so another question to you is, right now a lot of the viewers, a lot of students, a lot of working professionals who have recently graduated, they just open their Instagram one day and they see so many reels. They did not get time to sit down and analyze what exactly happened in a very structured way. And it is an emotional topic. One of the best way to spread information is adding an emotional element to it. Because whenever our emotions are involved, we do not have our prefrontal cortex engaged. And we are way more likely to, succumb to any kind of a propaganda that is being spread. To the viewers and to someone who wants to analyze and critically analyze whatever is going on, what would be your suggestions to them to read between the lines and to identify when there is a very shady thing that is going on in the background?
I think they should stop consuming news on Instagram. That is what I'll actually first say. Instagram is not for news. Instagram is for entertainment purpose. I mean, even Mark Zuckerberg wouldn't have thought that one day my Instagram in India will become a news channel. Right? That is the state that we are in. Of course, you can say that in this entire criticism of Godi media, is any media really this one? I would say today you are in the era of artificial intelligence. Right? Before you react, act, be empathetic towards it, because before you actually become guilty of it, etc., etc. Take a couple of minutes to do some research. Right? I mean, you don't need to connect the dots like how a public researcher would actually connect the dots, but at least take some time to say, read about Sonam Wangchuk, or read about Abhishek or Saurav Das or Prakash Raj, or anyone who has been involved in this particular movement or protest. Take some time to read about how the NEET paper leak happened. What did government do after that particular NEET paper leak happened? And how that particular results came into existence, etc., etc. And why was the NEET introduced in first place? What is this mafia of these tuition centers that is there already? All these things are available online, I think. So, especially these working professionals, more or less the IT guys, the software guys, they are so, busy in fixing the Western issues that they don't know their own house issues. There was a play of mine where I actually had written a line which said that a software engineer, telecom engineer, for 30 years of his life, worked to make sure that the British telecom network of England was up and running, not knowing that his own BSNL landline was dead for past 2 years. This is the situation that we are in. Right. I think we should be aware of things. We should read about things and then make our judgment and stand by the judgment too. Just because I probably come up and debunk some issue, you don't change your stand. Right? And things like these, especially, like for example, that when the paper leak happened and the re-exam happened and the re-exam also finished, I think that entire timeline was about 1.5 months maybe. 20 days was a time before the re-exam happened and then they did it, right? Let's say 1 month or so. There was no issue at all, no? I mean, none of them realized the issue until this particular entire thing was spruced up, right? Because we expect someone else to wake us up.
Yeah.
It's better that we wake up ourselves and we consume the news that the way we want to. If not the news that you don't want to believe, there are many ways where you can actually access the news.
Right. But sir, as someone who has tried this myself, I use Gemini And again, at the end of the day, AI is trained on the data that is present on the internet. I found that it is a lot more biased towards a specific thought process, towards a specific ideology. And when I wanted to get a very neutral perspective after being aware on the topic, on the subject, I was, I can't blame the AI itself, because at the end of the day, the database itself is corrupt. I was in a way misguided by it. So, what are some red flags would you suggest that the people look out for before settling on any kind of a news that they inhale or that they settle on?
I think many. Like for example, for me, the red flag first is that place Jantar Mantar. That is the biggest red flag that I have.
Why so, sir?
I mean, two major movements happened there. One, I think 2014, and then now another movement that is happening. I think anyone who will actually collectively come and say and sit there and do something, the result of the previous movement, what is it already. So I don't have to explain it. The other thing is that a couple of other red flags is the kind of people who get involved in that particular movement. That is actually very important for us to ascertain. And the kind of statements and the kind of things that they had actually told in past also matters, right? So it is actually very important to understand and figure out and develop a sense of kind of interpretation. Why is she there? Why is he there? What is the relation with respect to NEET? What is the relation in this one? Shabana Azmi's son is not obviously writing NEET. Or anyone. Not necessary that their son or daughter should write NEET to be there for the protest, but the thing is that when they get involved, etc., what is it that is there for them? The
Right.
red flag. And the way they do it also. As I told you, hunger strike is a blackmail tool. Another kind of strike is another kind of tool, etc. The kind of tools that they use in order to do this also is actually matters. So these are the red flags that I would say for a viewer to suddenly see it and then think about it, recalibrate where it is going. I think so. Like who is involved, where it is involved, and how it is involved, and why is okay. And then also when they are doing it also. I think these are some of the red flags. I mean, it requires some kind of basic research. I'm pretty sure that though AI will actually give you some kind of biased information, it will give you some information.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure that you should be able to judge something out of that information that you actually get.
Reasoning through it should be possible.
Yeah.
Fair. Sir, we live in a country where leaders are respected based on the accountability that they take. We had Lal Bahadur Shastri in 1956, who resigned as the railway minister. We had Nitish Kumar, who resigned as the railway minister after the Gaisal collision. Why can we not expect that now? And it's not that they resigned because the fault was on them. They resigned because of the responsibility taken as good leaders. And I think after that, their political career also took a great hit. So why haven't Indian leaders, not only with respect to the education, but with respect to multiple issues that have come, including E20 and a few others, why haven't Indian leaders resigned over the failures, since those times?
So, I mean, NEET is very clearly, obviously, the paper leak aspect was a failure that you can actually discuss. Now, E20 is something that you actually mentioned, like similarly, like any other thing. Now, how do you ascertain failure? It's an interpretational thing.
True.
For me, what it is failure, for you, it might be success. For you, what it is success, for me, it might be a failure. Right? In policy, especially in public policy, interpreting failure is the most important, difficult thing to do. Right? And unless and until you indulge in a large-scale financial corruption, it is very difficult to judge or pinpoint telling that this particular thing is a failure, this particular thing is not a failure. Same holds good with this particular government too. That to ascertain the failure, it is very difficult to interpret it as a failure, especially in the E20 case. You say that like mileage will be lost. The Tata car makers themselves say that it's not lost. So somewhere you obviously are caught up in that particular narrative. And also, the government or any government which is actually running the system, they wouldn't want to get into the resignation stage because the heat must be on. But the moment the minister resigns, he escapes from that.
Hmm.
Do you want that person to escape? You want to obviously punish him, right?
Fair.
Right? The biggest punishment is to stay there and correct it. I feel that is a real accountability.
Right.
With this heat on, the education minister of this country staying there, he should have put all the effort to correct it. And imagine the pressure that he will have when he conducts the next year's NEET exam.
Hmm.
Right? Now, if that particular person resigns, he will go to water resources.
Yeah.
Right? And someone else will come here. What will happen to the system? You will just escape from one thing to another thing. I think the government of the day believes that resignation is a form of escapism. And they don't want to shy away or escape from the core factors that affect this particular country. Right? And this has happened. This is the pattern that we have seen at least in 12 years of this government, where they take accountability. They say that, okay, we have done something. They stay there. They try to correct it. Like that, many measures have happened. Remember, there was a narrative telling that finance minister, you resign for something, for the implementation of GST. Today, see how seamless the GST implementation is done. If the finance minister that day, because of this pressure, had resigned, would that seamless implementation be possible?
There would have been a lot of hiccups. Yeah.
Right? She would have escaped. What is there in her? She is even a member of upper house. So she is not answerable for the public. Right? For Rajya Sabha members, they don't answer to the public directly. Right? So they are not even answerable to the public. Correct, no?
Right.
So I think I also believe that resignation is a form of escapism. It is very easy to resign and go. And that's how we have 10 prime ministers or 9 prime ministers over 10 years in UK.
Right.
What have you achieved?
Yeah, accountability didn't give a lot of gains.
Nothing, right?
Yeah.
In over 10 years, you had 9 prime ministers in UK. What did each of the resignations achieve? They couldn't still solve the basic problem of Brexit even today.
Right.
For over 9 prime ministers they had.
Yeah, that is a very different perspective. I'd never thought of.
Make them stay.
Right.
Don't allow them to escape. In that rotten system, they have to fix this system. That's accountability.
Right.
According to me. I don't know.
Very, very good point put forth, sir. So another question I have is, this protest has gone for quite a long time, and they're students. How did this sustain?
I know it's a pretty tricky question. I'm sure that they are funded.
By?
A lot of self-funded people. Yesterday I was reading a news telling that a lot of common public ordered on Swiggy and Zomato and then delivered this burgers, whatever that they're kind of eating, etc. So till yesterday, of course, it was a different case, but I'm pretty sure that there is some amount of financial sustenance that is being pumped into it. This is not just a student protest for sure. This doesn't look like a student protest for sure, right? So no one can actually sustain for that long just sitting there. So this is obviously some kind of organization is actually back, which obviously investigation will actually reveal. And then once after yesterday, out of sympathy, the common public have started putting donations, etc., etc. And then again 1 year later, there will be ED raid on the same donations where it went, etc., etc. So it's a systematic cycle. So be ready for that another protest telling when ED raids them as to where is this donation money, etc., etc., and how it is coming. So there is some amount of, I'm pretty sure that the funding has happened, and it's happened in a better way, good way only, good way in the sense in a good amount, and that is why they are sustaining it for such a long. I think they will sustain more also. In fact, the farmers' protest sustained for 1 year.
Yeah.
Right, and later we got to know that Canada had a direct link with the farmers' protest. Similarly, we'll also get to know the direct link as and when the time comes, but definitely it is finance project.
This second prophecy would be fun to look out for. But how feasible would it be to say that this is perhaps a US deep state push on the FCRA bill, and if the government sacks Pradhan Rao, does India, or would India look like it's bending to foreign pressure?
Yeah, I mean, I think why should India bend to any foreign pressure in my case? India is a sovereign country. It's an independent country. It's a strong country. We have a strong prime minister. We have a strong government for past 12 years. Why should we actually bend to any country? Do we actually go disrupt the House of Commons in England, the Senate, or the House of this one in Washington? No, we don't have any role to play in any country unless and until that we don't want to. That way, I don't think so. We should actually bend to anyone. Of course, the whole notion of deep state being involved is a subject that is definitely needs to be investigated. When you connect a timeline, somewhere it comes to this particular timeline telling that, okay, these things might be related to that. But obviously, I'll ask you this question, and I'll ask you to decide as to whether deep state is involved or not. July 17th, the embassy in Delhi, the American embassy in Delhi, puts up a notice telling that 20th and 21st, there will be riots in Delhi. Please exercise caution. Now, of course, everyone, the world knew that 20th they are told that we'll march to the protest.
Yeah.
But how did they know that there will be riots?
Can it not be told that perhaps their intelligence had a rough calculation that the mob might go out of control?
True. How will they know on 17th only? How will American intelligence know on 17th only that 20th there might be some kind of a riot? Okay, forget that. 20th there can be some kind of a riot. Your intelligence would have told you because they only declared telling that we'll do some protest. Maximum number of people are joining, etc., etc. 21st, who declared that there will be protest? They are given disclamation for both the days.
That does cause some suspicion.
Yeah, 21st, no one told that there will be protest. 20th also, these people told that there will be peaceful march. Until 20th morning, none of us knew, telling that there will be so many people. How does American intelligence know that there will be so many people? Now, this is for you to decide on this deep state.
So, another question is, how does this compare to the India Against Corruption in 2011, which became the Aam Aadmi Party? Are there some parallels that you draw?
Yeah, I mean, I could see a lot of parallel. I can see a political party raising up here, though they claim that they will not be, or eventually they will not go there. I'm pretty sure that eventually they will land up there. They would want to be recognized as the youth voice of this particular country is what I think. I think they are largely inspired by what happened in Nepal and Bangladesh, where both slightly youth, at least in Nepal, Balin Shah came in as a prime minister of the country because of this Gen Z movement. In both the agitations, they had the main character who later gets ignored in a larger way. That is also this one that I can actually see. I think the government of India Against Corruption, I think they were in a dialogue. That is something that is yet to happen in this particular protest. But I think the format is same. So I think they have developed this particular format and structure where they have set a precedence telling that in future also such protest, if they have to happen, it will happen in similar way where they'll actually sit at Jantar Mantar, they will actually try to enforce some kind of starvation till death, etc., etc. By the way, having said all these things, the farmers near Biddia have been on a hunger strike for past 400 days for their own rights on the lands, which no one is actually seeing. They are also on fast, some of the farmers. So the Biddi farmer agitation issue is no one is seeing because that is very far from Jantar Mantar. That's something that I would want to say, right? So I think I feel a political party in creation from this protest is what I think it will actually end up after this entire thing. And then, you see, once they do a political party, it's a game of numbers. And you have to struggle, you have to go through it, you have to fight, you have to put manifesto. You can't be a political party and be on Instagram. Then you have to go to the booth level.
Yeah.
That's where the real politics is.
Right.
So I hope that they will do that. I don't know. But of course, lot of similarities, and this is a new structure that's formed.
That is the prophecy number 3 to look out. So, a movement that lives on the street forever looks like it needs a street more than the solution. A reform movement or a permanent agitation brand. What would you classify CJP as?
I would classify it more as a organized agitation brand. Right? Neither of the two that you asked me.
Clever one.
So it's organized. It's of course funded nicely, backed up by good amount of people, and it's an agitation in the agitation form for a particular cause, which I think they are probably changing the lamppost every day. Right? Started with the Pradhan resignation, then maybe tomorrow the Home Minister, then later Prime Minister, then President, then elect me as the Prime Minister. I mean, I don't know what will this one this way. So whatever. Right. So I think it's an organized agitation. There is no wrong in doing an organized agitation. There are a lot of organized. Shine Bagh was an organized agitation for more than 1 year. So we only COVID had the resilience in it to dismantle the Shine Bagh agitation that was going through. So every time any government wants to do something progressive, there is a narrative that is actually built against it, and then you try to create an agitation. So I somehow feel that the toolkit is it's a global thing, just not limited to India.
Right. Also, so in Tamil Nadu, we saw that youth hunger can go electoral, where we had Vijay and TVK that came to power. In younger states, with worse unemployment and no such vehicle, does the anger have to hit the street? Is the CJP taking advantage of that? And with the BJP short on young faces, how does that gap get filled?
I think, BJP is not short on younger faces. BJP has a lot of eligible younger faces. BJP has 21 chief ministers across India. They rule 3/4 of the country along with the central government. So they have both state and central administration. The thing is that, of course, Vijay winning is a great example of how democratically one can actually go and take that position. Yeah. Right? Vijay actually made a declaration telling that if the patient dies in the hospital, then the patient doesn't have to pay the fee of the hospital. It's still, I think, yet to be passed in the state legislation, but he made this one. It's a great thing. Yeah. I mean, that's left to the interpretation later, but as of now, it's a great announcement. Right? That's exactly how you actually make a movement. Right? There also, the stampede happened and a lot of things were actually thrown at him, etc., etc. But I would not say that why should there be an anger in youngsters? I don't think so. We always try to generalize or classify few age groups in few things. We think that 50 to 70, they always vote for BJP. Then we think that all youngsters, they don't even vote or they have some kind of anger. We think that 20 to 40, they don't even vote. They have their office. They don't even apply leave. They actually apply leave and go to resort. So we try to generalize this particular thing. The youth doesn't have anger. There are more opportunities now. There are more things to explore and other things. I would say maybe the youth is missiled into wrong information. I think because India is the only country which has the biggest resource that they can have, which is the human resource that is of youth power. Roughly about 60% of India's population is youth. No other country's demography is as like India has. So I think slowly political parties, political narratives have started to realize this. The CJP also probably would have realized from Vijay's agitation, telling that if I do now, I might actually get this. You asked Mr. Pawan Kalyan, who is also another superstar, and someone asked him, telling that Vijay hit a 6 on the first ball, what happened to you? He said that I took 10 years to come to this stage. Not everyone is Vijay. So similarly, not every agitation will become an AAP or a political this one. So I would say youth is badly missiled, badly misinterpreted. They need some kind of information that needs channelizing to them. The youth of metros are in their own world. They are this one. The youth of probably the second tier rural areas, they need some kind of first-hand information that needs to be passed to them. I think that is missing, and that gap is creating this noise.
Right.
Is what I think.
So you're right about the fact that they might be misguided, but as someone who's also one of the youth, one of the members of the people who are agitated by all of these things, we see a lot of issues with respect to unemployment, with respect to multiple things, that result in that agitation, that result in a little bit of that anger. And there are forces that guide most of the people in the wrong direction. As someone who is perhaps a subject matter expert, what would be your recommendation or a statement to all of the viewers and all of the youth to ensure that they're guided in the right direction?
I would, I have my own views on unemployment. I mean, we have more jobs than ever, right? Than we always had. Obviously, with inflation, the requirement of jobs also increases, right? And then the requirement for human resource also increases. Like, for example, where was Swiggy or Zomato 10 years back? Right. Like today, you can actually go yourself, get registered on Swiggy or Zomato, become a delivery agent. I mean, you might earn a little less, but you still have a job. If you have a yellow board car, you can actually become a cab driver and become a Ola Uber driver today. Where was it 10 years back? Right? I think the jobs are now moving out of the traditional areas to more non-traditional areas. It's a transition phase. Because of this transition, there are no jobs, there are no people to work in the rural areas only. You ask any person who works on a farm in a rural area, they say that we don't have laborers to actually do any work in the agricultural field. India doesn't have required number of electricians, carpenters, gardeners, etc. That skilled labor is not there. I feel the youth should actually work on the skill rather than trying to, what will they get by beating few RAF policemen or destroying few pots at the Jantar Mantar? They have to anyway go back to their village or city tomorrow.
Right.
That's not the skill. But tell me something like, for example, don't you always had this feeling telling that there are no enough plumbers, electricians in this particular city? Every time when they call, they are busy. Right? That is where the gap is. Right? We don't have enough skilled professionals.
Right.
And the youth of this country should work on the skill.
That gap is something that could be filled. Yeah. So we have seen the Gen Z protests topple governments in Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh. How do we differentiate whether it's healthy pressure from outside interference without using the foreign hand to dismiss every real grievance?
As a common man, it is very difficult to differentiate. I mean, you don't have to differentiate also. Protest is a protest, right? Only when you want to dwell into further, you go back, read, etc., and do these things. The amplification of a protest will actually decide if it is a sponsored protest or not a sponsored protest. Did you know that there was a protest in Dharwad for police recruitment and police examination just 6 months back, where all the students of Dharwad were on road? Genuine 800 to 700 students were on the streets of Dharwad, demanding, I think for police only, for some public administration exam and entrance exam only, and for enrollment of it. They are also students. They are also they also have aspirations. Why was this protest not covered in BBC Hindi or Al Jazeera? So the amplification of a protest matters. The rate at which you amplify a protest defines whether it is actually funded by agencies that they want you to amplify or not.
Fair. Sir, so some of the questions were also asked in the community about this topic. And one of the questions were, in plain terms, who is responsible for the NEET leak? Is it the legislature, executive, or the NTA?
I think NTA is a result of both legislation and executive.
Yeah.
So, as I told you, some of the important policies should be out of the ambit of legislation or the executive. It should be a separate quasi-judicial body which actually governs it. So some career-breaking, path-breaking entrance exams such as NEET and other things should be an autonomous body like UPSC, which doesn't need a minister to be governed.
Right.
That is what I personally think. And when an autonomous body is actually responsible for it, it is devoid of undue political pressure, when to do it, etc. It will automatically become a well-oiled machine. Because the same people will actually come and be part of that particular exam. So they know that the struggle to pass that exam. So they will not let that exam to fail.
Right.
Now JEE Advanced, who sets the paper? All the IITs together, no? So who runs the IITs? The people who have written the JEE Advanced. So the people who run this particular thing, they know how difficult it is. So the struggle is known to them. So they won't happen. Here the problem is that a ministry will not understand the struggle of a student.
Right.
How many experienced doctors, medical educators are part of NTA today? Right? I don't think so. One? Not even one, maybe. You can't put a bureaucrat to run a medical entrance exam. You need someone who has passed through that phase to run that particular exam.
Right.
So, I think it should be an autonomous body. A lot of some other exams are autonomous body. It should be an autonomous body and removed from the ministry.
Fair point, sir. Another question was, both sides play politics. The government dodges accountability by pointing at CJP's anti-national, anti-Hindu elements. And joining the CJP isn't an option either. How does a normal person avoid getting stuck between these two bad choices? Perhaps this is more directed towards the youth and how they can make better decisions.
No, they don't have to take choices. Why should they actually pick between two sides? I mean, I don't asking him to be neutral also. But I think the youth should actually focus largely on the solution-oriented approach rather than picking sides, trying to debate, etc., etc. I think they can obviously do that, but as long as they also kind of come into some kind of debate or do all these things, I think we should see a solution-based approach by the youth rather than anything else. For about 75 years, this country has indulged in a lot of debates and the progress is very slow. I think you have to move beyond that and look into a new aspect on how youth want to take this. I would say that look into solution-based approach. See, when the space sector was privatized, we had the first space startup which actually successfully launched. That is also youth, no? Yeah. The minimum working force in that particular startup was 22, 24. In this entire protest, that news got lost. That was a positive news. We had the first private rocket in the space that is completely Indian made. I feel this is what I feel is a solution, an approach that a youth should take today.
Right. Another question that I have is, You mentioned that we already had a very well-oiled, well-functioning, self-sustainable education system, which also involved the Gurukuls.
Yeah.
Uh, could you shed some light on its functioning and why it was, rather so superior and why it was so self-sustaining and something that we should look up to, so that the youth will have a point of reference? Ki, yes, this is why it is given so much importance and reference in today's world.
Actually, the Gurukul system ran on morals rather than grades. That is where it actually had its upper hand, right? It did not have your pressure of scoring 35 out of 100, passing, and then going into next semester, then scoring something, and then coming out. It had real life connect with what you study and what you do. Right? If you wanted to become a carpenter, then it had the skills that a carpenter needs to imbibe in it. Right? If you wanted to become an archer, it had the skills that an archer want to imbibe in it. That real life connect that was there in the Gurukul system is what it is lacking now. And that's why the NEP was actually brought into, and Mr. Sonam Wangchuk himself congratulated Dharmendra Pradhan, telling that NEP was a great idea. Where practical based learning was more important or is more important than theory based learning.
Right.
I think that is what we need to look at, and we had this. And Gurukul system emphasized on such kind of practical based learning. You teach students to face problems. I'll tell you, if we had the Gurukul system of education, the concept of student suicide wouldn't have existed today. It is only because of this British Macaulay system that we have suicides today and this entire fiasco. Because our education system taught us how to deal with life. None of the education system from Western world will teach on how to deal with life.
Right.
That is the biggest mistake that we are doing.
That's a very solid point, mate.
Yeah.
So that is something that should be taught much more often, because that is much more relevant to the lives that we live.
Yeah.
So another question, might be a repeat, is my sources are based on news, social media, and WhatsApp forwards. What's the best way for a common man to get facts and not narratives?
The common man should consume as much as news that he actually gets and try to decode his own narrative. No one can actually decide or, give you a foolproof narrative. That is impossible to do it. But the common man can actually choose what narrative that he wants to take.
Right.
There are some hundreds of narratives that are running. Out of such hundreds of narratives, the common man can actually choose which is the narrative that is best suitable for, based on three important things. One for himself, one for his family, one for his country. If he can actually pass this narrative through this 3-factor test, that is a narrative that he should consume. It can be anything, left or right. That's left to him.
Right. So, had a great session. Now we will try to cover a few handful of questions in a rapid fire session. If a 17-year-old remembers one thing from this, what should it be?
Okay, rapid fire, right?
Yes.
So the change that is needed in the education system of country today, which we all acknowledge, including the government, including the criticizers of this protest. We all acknowledge that the education system needs an overhaul in this particular country. So that is what the 17-year-old should remember from this.
Right. So how does the student tell a genuine movement from the one that's using them from either side?
If the kind of narrative that they are peddling into the student focuses on everything else apart from the core subject, then it's not genuine.
What's the fix that survives whichever party is in power?
There's no fix to democracy. If you can fix democracy, then you will be God. The idea of democracy is established that there is no fix to whatever things that are happening. And it's on prolonged dialogue and discussion.
Right. In a war of narratives, how does a normal person avoid becoming an ammunition for either side?
A normal person? Facts, data. If you have data, if you have facts, then either ways, either narratives that they can actually. Today, can anyone say from the government side telling that the NEET paper has not leaked? I can't deny it.
Yeah.
So that's data. That's fact.
Who is Abhijit Deepke in one line?
Maybe a wannabe opportunist.
Is Sonam Wangchuk Funsuk Wangdu? Yes, inspired by? No.
No, obviously no.
One fix for the NEET leak problem.
I've already answered this, that critical conducting exam department should be an autonomous body outside the ambit of a ministry of a particular government.
Right. One thing Gen Z can do beyond protesting.
Solutions. You should come up with solutions. Protesting is an age-old thing.
Right. One thing millennials/Gen X can do to help.
Share their experiences, guide, and moreover, at least tell them what is right or what is not.
I think, sir, with that, all of my questions, along with the lengthy ones that I drafted, are over. It was a phenomenal conversation that we had. And I sincerely hope that the viewers, as well as multiple people, who would be affected and who would be listening to this conversation, get some kind of a solace. The people who had sacrificed their lives because they couldn't handle the pressure, get some kind, and their parents get some kind of a solace. And with that, with the hope that the youth will be guided in the right direction, we end the podcast. And thank you for being here till now. And thank you, Abhishek.
Thank you.